Good morning. So 60 seconds on RightNow Technologies. So we're the leading provider of cloud computing in the federal government, specifically around customer-facing applications, customer relationship management, case management. Our value proposition is really about improving customer or citizen experience while reducing cost. And there's three ways we do that. One is with our solutions. So we've got case management solutions, contact center solutions, open government solutions. The second way is through our cloud platform. So very similar to a lot of our competitors, we have a commercial cloud, very secure, SaaS 70 Type 2, et cetera. But we've done two other things that are really innovative and cutting edge. One is we've built a cloud dedicated to the federal government. So we don't co-mingle commercial customers with our government customers. Built at NIST Moderate, 853 level compliance. And we've got customers today with ATOs across the board. And then third cloud is with a partnership with DoD and our customers, where DoD actually runs our cloud. We manage the application, and then our customers get the benefit of running on the NIPRNet while it's in kind of a DoD private cloud. And then lastly, we deliver on that value proposition around our acquisition model, which is quite unique to the industry. We believe that there should be no shelfware. You know, a lot of people, I think, would agree with me that technology-wise, cloud computing is here, right? But there's that technology side, but there's this acquisition side that the government hasn't caught up with yet. And so, you know, I'm a real big believer in enterprise-wide licensing is dead. You shouldn't be buying boatloads of licenses up front, especially in the cloud model. That said, the time for cloud computing is now. When you look at over the course of the last 12 to 18 months, it's really come a long way. You've got the FedRAMP program, which I'm personally very excited about. You have the 25-point plan where you've got to move 3 applications to the cloud. You have now funding behind cloud computing. This is the time for cloud. And so today's session is really about innovators that have already got to the cloud, and we're going to share those best practices and use cases with you today. The first one is FEMA. So from FEMA, we've got Sarah Hyder. She's the web program manager. Sarah is responsible for leading a number of e-government initiatives within the Office of External Affairs. She focuses on enhancing crisis management through advanced information technology, and her goal is to improve how information technology is used in coordinating and facilitating information on disaster preparedness, response, and recovery, while ensuring the availability of such information across multiple channels. Sarah has been involved with the delivery of e-government services using web technologies for over 11 years. She has a bachelor's degree in management information systems and decision sciences from George Mason University, and a master's certificate in program management from George Washington University, and is a certified project management professional. So let's welcome Sarah. Next we have Vishal Khera. He's with the Office of CIO at USDA. Vishal is a managing partner at Creative Systems and Consulting. He's involved with several initiatives at USDA within the CIO's office there. He's leading the development of a department-wide cloud computing strategy and is working on implementing a new platform as a service offering. Prior to joining USDA, Vishal was the chief architect at Federal Reserve IT, where he was responsible for providing architectural direction for major initiatives across the Federal Reserve and leading the development of cloud computing strategy and implementation of cloud-based services across the Federal Reserve System. Before that, Vishal was the senior director at Gartner and providing strategic consulting across a wide range of IT management and planning disciplines, including enterprise architecture, process optimization, and sourcing. He has an MBA in finance from the Smith School of Business, University of Maryland, and an undergraduate degree of computing engineering. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to welcome Sarah up.
Thank you, Kevin. Can you guys hear me? All right, let's see if I've got this on. It's good, keep going? All right. Thank you. As Kevin said, I'm a web program manager in FEMA's Office of External Affairs. I'm going to talk today about how we've gotten to the point of implementing some of our cloud applications and software as a service solutions. Okay, a little background. This slide shows you some of the solutions that we've implemented. We're in the process of moving to several other solutions. These include, we've implemented an online call center, email subscription service, online books, imagery, video, website hosting, blogging, measuring our customer satisfaction, and we're looking at text messaging right now. High-level overview, this is our strategy. This is the pyramid we follow. First, there's a need, and at FEMA we see the needs converge. We will have various program offices start coming to us saying, hey, we need to have a way to better manage our distribution lists and send emails to our stakeholders. Or the call centers, we have a number of call centers, and they come to us and they're saying, we need a better way to integrate our call center with the website. We need a better way to manage those inquiries that are coming over the website and getting quick responses back to them. So the needs come out of the woodwork, and we start looking at what tools are available. We've worked with this team there in the middle and on this a number of times. We know what to look for when we're identifying a tool. They work with us through the process of identifying any issues that we may have to overcome in moving to adopting or implementing these solutions, develop a plan with us, and then we get to the point where we're ready to implement, and we do that with supporting standard operating procedures. So what are some good needs and opportunities? I think everyone has said this so far. Cost savings. Our web program, we don't have a big budget, and we wouldn't be able to do many of the things that we've done and that we are looking at doing if we didn't have software as a service or cloud computing options. Another thing we're looking for is getting the right information to the right people at the right time. We deal with disasters. We need to be able to streamline getting information to our stakeholders, the general public, and by using cloud services, we don't have to deal with all those procedures and requirements that we have to deal with when we're on the FEMA network. Obviously, reaching people where they are, that's our social media. We've got how many, 600 million people on Facebook, so being able to be there and communicating with them is a really big deal. And obviously, at the end of the day, this helps us to improve our overall customer service. So how do we identify the tools? Well, we usually have a limited time frame to move forward with identifying a tool, getting it acquired, and to start the process of implementing it. We try to look at as many commercial off-the-shelf, government off-the-shelf, software as a service solutions as we can in that time frame. We're looking at the costs, we're looking at the benefits, and we're looking at the risks. And again, we've had input from the other members of FEMA, so we kind of have a general checklist of what we're looking for. And then as we narrow in on that tool, and I'm going to avoid the whole acquisition process, but as we narrow in on that tool and we've identified the one we want to go with, that's when the whole group, the team comes in and we really start doing some coordination. So this is the core group, and I wear two hats in this picture because I'm the FEMA web program there in the middle, but I also represent external affairs in a lot of instances. And then we've got IT security, our legal, chief counsel's office, office of policy, and our records management folks. And I should probably add the solution vendor here because as we move forward, we have to work very closely with the solution vendor to address the issues that come up and figure out the plan of how we're going to be at the point where we can launch it and move forward with the solution. So I'm going to briefly talk about what each of these groups' concerns are, and I'm representing people who could speak a lot better about these issues, but I've been through it a few times, so I'm going to speak to what I've seen they look for. So IT security. Our cybersecurity office is concerned with information security. And they're going to want to know what is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the system. Is it low, moderate, or high? Luckily for me, in most cases, we're off network, we're not touching sensitive information, and I get to say low, and then we only have to jump through about 50 hoops instead of 100. So they also want to know what are the system boundaries. So if we're looking at a cloud solution or a software as a service solution, where does it end? What FEMA systems is it touching? And if there's information being passed back and forth, they're going to say we need to have an interconnection security agreement. They'll also want to know what are our minimum security controls and how we're going to assess risk on an ongoing basis. For higher risk systems, and we have done a few with our call center integration, we are getting some personal information in from that group. They're going to look at system security plan and doing a certification and accreditation of the system. It's really helpful to us if the solution has already been through the process, because then we're able, I see nodding heads, because then we're able to, one, reach out to that agency or office and find out, you know, where were their roadblocks, but it just makes our cybersecurity office feel that much more comfortable with proceeding with the solution and being able to leverage many of the artifacts that have been created. So another group for us is our records management group. They're looking at privacy. We'll often have to do a privacy threshold analysis. That's your basic one that says, hey, are you collecting any personally identifiable information? If you are, you may kick off a privacy impact analysis. So PTA and PIA, you guys may have heard that, you've worked with that. That's a longer process. It could be a few months in getting to that point, and that can delay implementation. And we just, you know, working with the vendor to get to the point where we've done that if we need to. The record schedule, we have to have access to the raw data. If it's a system that's capturing information from the public or any of our stakeholders, we need to be able to touch that information, that raw data, and be able to export it so that we can retain it for whatever length of time we need to meet our records retention schedule. And then data collections, if the solution is one that asks the same questions of a large group of people, more than 10 people, it may be subject to OMB's data collection rules. And we're going to have to work with OMB to get approval to do that data collection. And that could be a several month-long process. And I should thank Jody because she helped me to put these slides together. Jody's from our Office of Chief Counsel, and she works with us hand in hand on these solutions. Some of, you know, I'm in public affairs, so some of our cloud solutions have been the social media ones, and there's not much to that except we have to negotiate the terms of service. A lot of terms of service have problematic clauses in them, and we're negotiating not to try to get a better deal for the government, but if it goes as is, what's in that terms of service won't be applicable. They won't benefit the service provider because they can't be applied to the government. Some of those clauses are changes to the terms of service, and I'm just going to throw them out there, and if you want to know more, I'll connect you with Jody. Indemnification clauses, confidentiality clauses, that's you have the same responsibility to protect the public's information as we do. Choice of laws, federal government agencies can't be, they're not subject to state court rulings, so we have to go to court in a federal court, but it can be in whatever state you'd like. And then endorsements. You can't, when we're working with the vendor, the solution provider, that does not open the door for them to use our agency seal or represent in some way that we are endorsing them as a product for the government or the agency. And then the last two groups, external affairs and our policy office, we have overarching policies that govern how we do our web development, whether it's for extranets, internal, social media. We've spent a lot of time over the last 2 years putting those together. So we've got that governing structure. We also look at branding We need to be able to brand the solution as our solution, as a FEMA solution. That's, I think, an OMB requirement that you see the government sponsorship, but it also shows that it gives that level of trust to the public that they're dealing with the government and they're getting valid information. Governance, we've also stood up a governance structure, so as we move forward with these solutions, and like I said, those needs all converged at the beginning, so there's a lot of groups who are interested in using this. We leverage our governance structure to say, here's how you're going to do it. Here's our policy, and at this time we've developed our standard operating procedures working with the groups I've talked about. Here's how it works. Go forth and use the system. 508 compliance, I think everyone here is familiar with 508 compliance, not just that the output, that what the end user is using is 508 compliant, but we need for the government what we're using, the admin side of it, to be 508 compliant as well, and policy. So I hope this provided a good, if brief, overview of how we go about implementing software as a service solutions. And if I could emphasize one thing, it would be the coordination and collaboration, not just within the agency, but also working with the other government agencies who've been down this path with solutions we're interested in. We've been able to get so much from collaborating with our peers, and obviously the cloud solution providers. So that's what has allowed us to be where we are today. Thank you.
And we're going to have questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can you hear me okay? No? Still turning green. Is it better now? See, most presenters only have to worry about people can hear them okay. I have to worry about can you see me okay as well. So it's just, can you? All right, so like Kevin mentioned, I've been involved in development of cloud strategy and identifying workloads for moving towards cloud for a little over 2-3 years now, first at Federal Reserve and now at USDA. One of the things that is most exciting is the way the conversation has changed over the past 2.5, 3 years about cloud computing. So I've had my share of these kind of cloud summits and sessions. Back in 2008, 2009, all of the conversation was about if it's a fad, if it's a new buzzword, if cloud computing is just going to go away. Then back 2009, 2010, a lot of conversation was about the challenges, the data integrity issues, and the data sovereignty issues, things like that. But what I'm most excited about today is that a lot of conversation today has been about case studies, about agencies that have implemented it. So a level of maturity, a level of comfort has already set in within the agencies, within the organizations who are implementing it. By no means those challenges have gone away, but the conversation has matured to let's talk about how we are doing it, how we are implementing it, and how we are realizing the value of cloud computing. So in that regard, within USDA, under our departmental CIO, Chris Smith's guidance, we didn't wait for the conversation to shift. We took some very bold steps in early 2010 to embrace cloud computing. We started our own internal private cloud, which wasn't just about doing some pilots here and there and doing proof of concept. We just jumped full board into the private cloud offering at NITSE. And then we outsourced all of our email and collaboration to cloud service provider. And I'm going to talk about it in the next few slides. And with the federal cloud computing strategy coming out in the last couple of weeks, also with the 25-point plan for reforming IT agenda, IT in federal government, with the focus being on cloud computing, I see USDA continuing to embrace cloud computing and have bigger initiatives as things, as time goes. So I'm going to talk about some of the primary benefits that made us take that big step or take us those bold steps for moving towards cloud about a year back. Obviously, the benefits, they've been talked about quite a lot. They are centered around three primary benefits or tenets about lower cost of IT, improved transparency. So lower cost of IT was one of the key drivers for us to move towards private cloud as well as towards the email cloud that we are moving towards. But one of the other important drivers within that whole sphere was improved transparency. NHTSA had been in the business of providing IT services to our agencies for several years. One of the common complaints that we have heard from our agencies is that when we get the IT bill, we don't know what we are paying for. I'm sure several large departmental service providers have faced the same thing. By moving towards the usage-based pricing model, by implementing the tools within our infrastructure that have allowed us to first move towards private cloud and have a granular level of measurements to say this is how much you have consumed, or this is how much computing power that has been allocated to you, we are able to have a more mature conversations with the departmental agencies about the amount of IT computing power that they are using. And that has really helped transform a lot of conversations, improved our customer satisfaction scores and things like that. So it is by no stretch a benefit that we can just kind of simply ignore. Improved business agility and creation of new value drivers. Those are other benefits that we have definitely seen through the implementation of cloud computing within our environment. And then with Chris at helm at the USDA, at the departmental level, creation of new value drivers was almost as important as saving money. So getting into those new areas which were not earlier available for us from funding standpoint and that cloud computing has enabled us to get into, those have been really, really important drivers for us, and I'm going to talk about some of them in the next few slides. Now, if you look at the whole spectrum of cloud computing, and I'm not going to go into the definitional aspects, those things are done. We are approaching cloud computing not just as a single large strategy for USDA. We are approaching cloud computing more from a portfolio management approach. If you look at these 9 boxes here, each one of them has its own unique governance and management challenges. You can't say that a public cloud approach is going to be the same as, or governance and management is going to be same as private cloud. So we're taking individual steps and focusing on what initiatives are we going to implement in either all of them or across selective few, or take an approach which will be a phased approach of starting with certain site or certain site and move into other areas. As you can see, the side of private cloud is fairly well filled out, and I haven't even put all the services that NHTSA is offering in those areas. So NHTSA started offering private cloud services back in the middle of last year. NHTSA PaaS is essentially a fully managed operating platform that includes all the compute capability all the way up to the operating system. So we offer Linux and Windows-based PaaS services on demand, secure environment certified at the OS level. So obviously, the applications that the agencies are running, they have to certify them themselves. But at the OS level, we are certifying the whole infrastructure. Extremely competitively priced service offerings. We benchmark our services against the industry. Obviously, there is the cost of CNA and other things that are involved, but it is extremely price competitive as compared to what we were offering just 18 months back, which was our gold, silver, and bronze offerings. We have seen significant adoption. 10 plus agencies, USDA agencies, and also a couple of other agencies outside of USDA have moved 20 plus applications there. And with the departmental enterprise data center consolidation taking steam, a lot of agencies are going to move into our NHTSA PaaS offerings. NHTSA IaaS is our storage stack. So we offer 3 different tiers of virtualized disk storage, priced as you would buy it in private cloud. So per JV, per month pricing, you can rapid provisioning of storage within the NITSI managed network, data centers. USDA Enterprise Messaging System, that is one of the case studies that has been highlighted in the Federal Cloud Computing Strategy document. That is something that is still in works. We haven't gone live with that yet, but I think the service ready date was February 15th. I don't have the status update, like did we go through it with that or not, but it is in the matter of weeks that we will start transitioning actual workloads over to a cloud-based email. $6 million in savings per year once it is fully implemented and we move all 120,000 users over to the cloud-based offering. USDA Connect, that is a very unique example in itself where a private cloud offering, when we compare it against what is offered at the IBM's Lotus Live offering, our private cloud is priced at a much lower cost as a SaaS offering from a private vendor, primarily because we have the scalability, we have the economies of scale for the 120,000 users that we are talking about within USDA. So it gets us the entry into the private SaaS opportunities. We are looking towards offering all of the capabilities within Lotus Connections as part of our internal dynamic collaboration model systems. Going forward, what we are looking at doing is extending our offerings, which are primarily focused on private cloud, to agencies to have a better understanding about what these offerings are and how they can benefit from it. What we have developed is a comprehensive evaluation framework that we will work with the agencies to see if they can move some of their workloads to the cloud, be it NITSI private cloud, be it any kind of public cloud or a community cloud which is FedRAMP certified. And several attributes that we are looking at very specifically for these individual workloads. And these attributes will have to be applied to each individual workload. What are the value attributes? Efficiency, agility, innovation, like we talked about. Is your workload really focused around time to market? Does it have to get out in 4 weeks or 4 months? There are workloads, believe it or not, in federal government that have that kind of driver. Innovation, there are several, those new business drivers that I was talking about, if those are your key drivers, consider private cloud, consider public cloud within the FISMA certified arena. Readiness attributes, how are these attributes stacking up? And this is an evolving framework. Like, since I put together these slides, we have already added another attribute in the readiness arena. So this is an evolving framework, but this is something we will be reaching out to all our agencies to evaluate their new investments, existing investments, to see how they can embrace either NITSI provided cloud or some of the public clouds that are available. And in order to do that, we really have to look at what is our cloud management and governance, what are the cloud management and governance issues are going to be, what will be the role of OCIO in that arena from that aspect. Guidance coming out of NIST will be very important for us to embrace, and we'll continue to be on the forefront in terms of embracing those guidance, putting solutions out for our agencies to embrace. Thank you. And turning it over to you for questions.
So why don't I start with a couple questions for the folks up here. First one for Vishal. So you mentioned earlier the FedRAMP program, right? You know, I personally think it's a great program for the federal government. It's promising to save hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Because it's a shared CNA, a shared ATO across the agencies. You've got the ability to now have cloud standards. There's 40 plus more controls. Looking at the moderate versus low level. You know, when I go into agencies today, even within the same agency, I could go to one division of agency A, they pass authority to operate moderate level, and then I go into same cabinet level, but department B, and they have a whole different set of standards. With the way the program's outlined today, and I know it's not coming out here till summer, what advice would you have to the FedRAMP program managers? Do they have it exactly right, or is there some tweaks you would make?
I mean, I don't know about the advice to FedRAMP program managers, but what I would say is that it is one of the key programs in assisting federal agencies to embrace cloud computing with a little bit more confidence. That, coupled with the NIST guidance that will come out around the same time or later on in the year, those are the key components that will really help agencies get a level of confidence, get a level of comfort around embracing cloud offerings. So if you'd see, I mean, I showed that 3x3 matrix, you'd see that most of the gray areas that we didn't have any offerings are in the community cloud, in the public cloud arena. Are we going to jump with both feet in the public cloud arena? Maybe, maybe not. But with the FedRAMP program, with other guidance, with vendors, with vendor community being certified at that level, that will help us fill out some of those gray boxes with offerings towards our federal agencies and also allow us to manage it in a more coherent approach rather than having each agency, each program having to decide, like you're saying, within the cabinet agencies, decide what are they supposed to do and basically leaving it to the ATOs to determine how much risk they can take.
Right, just a quick piggyback question. So, you know, the guidance today will give agencies the ability to adopt the FedRAMP shared ATO, still do their own, or adopt some of it and modify. And so the real payoff is if everybody adopts it, right, that's where the tens of hundreds of millions of savings comes in. Do you think that it'll be business as usual where everybody still wants to do their own, or do you think that it will be embraced and adopted?
I think it will truly depend on what kind of guidance comes out of other initiatives, what kind of comfort level or the controls that have already been applied in FedRAMP. So I think it will have to play out on its own. I wouldn't want to speculate
how hard the policy guidance comes down. Sure, thank you. So Sarah, you know, we've seen today and talked about many different applications that could be put to the cloud. You know, what's your opinion on applications that you feel are kind of the first ones that agencies should look to move to the cloud, and then maybe a sub-list or a secondary list of applications you think that probably aren't fit for the cloud?
Okay, I would say at this point, most departments or agencies have engaged in the social media environment. There's lower risk. We don't have the same security concerns. That one has been pretty much hashed out. So if someone had a list and they hadn't started anywhere, I think getting your feet wet by moving to one of those platforms would be easiest. Second tier, I'd say anywhere where you need to do it better and do it for less. You know, if it needs higher security and that the provider provides higher security, I mean, if they've met what your legal folks are looking for, security, records management, some of those things I outlined, then there's no reason not to do it if you can do it for less and do it more efficiently. And it seems a lot of the time, from my perspective, maybe that's just because I'm in the Office of External Affairs, that they're a little bit further along in that communication directly to the public and doing the collaboration piece of communicating with your stakeholders and exchanging information back and forth.
Great. Who has the first question for the panel here? If you would state your name, your organization, and who the question is directed. And do we have mics? Yeah, we got a question back.
Check. Hi, Wyatt Cash with Federal Computer Week. One of the things in the OMB report that came out just last week is the benefit idea that you're moving from capital equipment expense to operation expense. But if budgets get cut, you could probably nurse your equipment on for a while. What happens and how do you look at the risk of budgets on your operating expense as you move these services to the cloud?
Absolutely. So one of the things that has been really the key driver for cloud computing has been that the savings from moving towards cloud aren't really those kind of old way of thinking IT savings where there's actually no savings, but you end up offering more services. With cloud computing, the savings are real. And you can see savings of the tune of like 50%, 60%, 70% over what you were paying previously. We have seen that at NHTSA. We have seen it in several other examples as well. So if we are talking about marginal budget cuts, we can perhaps sustain it. We can continue to offer benefits to our agencies and continue to meet mission needs. But if we are talking about severe budget cuts, I mean, then there are really not much of a choice there. But given the move towards the cloud has really provided an opportunity and avenue to have significant cost savings. We're not talking about at the edges, we're talking about really at the core. I think that is something that has really been exciting to the CIOs and to the CFOs in terms of moving towards cloud. I don't know if I answered.
My name is Shri. Actually, we came from a FEMA IDISC program. We work on a project called DIP, Disaster Risk Improvement Program. So part of our questions to Vishal, to you, you showed us a paper presentation. Thanks for the presentation. It was pretty much, and you clearly isolated infrastructure as a service and platform as a service and software as a service. I can't hear you. Thank you. Because I thought it was me. Hello? Okay. Yeah. The part of our question is we work on the something. Hello? Can you hear me? One of the questions we have is we are dealing with something called surge operations for our hurricane seasons in a program called DIP, Disaster Risk Improvement Program. And we're looking for something called a horizontal scalability, okay, which is basically auto-scaling in the elasticity, okay. If that is the case, can you explain how you guys are doing an elasticity in your private clouds? What is the volume you have? How you are trying to take that artifacts and applying across the enterprise? And that's the first question I have. And the second, do you have any sort of an iPaaS, PaaS as a PaaS, platform as a service offerings? In the platform as a software offering, what type of vendors you are providing, like an Oracle or something you are providing? So we need to understand that for our program to very clearly understand. Thanks.
Can you repeat the two questions for the audience?
Sure. So if I can repeat, or at least what I understood was that one, you want to find out how we are offering scalability or elasticity in the private cloud. And secondly, what specific services within the PaaS offering are we offering for our agencies? So the way we are offering scalability within the private cloud, so obviously we are not scaling to the extent of your, private cloud. I don't want to name vendors or, typical private clouds. We are not supporting workloads that within 24 hours needs 1,000 more images or 2,000 more images. But the kind of workloads, truly the agencies that are running within NHTSA aren't really that kind of scalability. There are some workloads that require that kind of scalability where you have to provision those, but those workloads represent maybe 10% of our workload. What primarily represents is the scalability need where the peak workload goes maybe up to 30% over the average workload, or 35, 40% of the average. Those are the kinds of workloads that we are able to support just within the cluster of compute power that we have provisioned. Because the scalability needs for those workloads is not at the same time, there is excess provisioning that is available within our environment. We can support few of those workloads scaling above what their typical average workload is. And then secondly, in terms of the question that you had, what kind of specific offerings that we have? So at the OS level, we are supporting Linux and Windows offerings. At PaaS level, that because they are CNA, we call it at the PaaS level. We are soon looking to offer AIX and Sun PaaS as well. We have already priced and will be included within our service catalog SQL Server as a DB for agencies to come in so that they don't have to take care of the enterprise licenses or license management. NHTSA will take care of that for them, all the way up to database administration, system-level database administration. And we will continue to offer newer services over the next year. And one of the things that I didn't touch upon, my timer went off, was anticipating an agency demand. So at OCIO level, we are engaging agencies as part of the EDC effort, where we are bringing in their workloads into NHTSA, as well as as part of their budgetary requests and things like that to anticipate what are the needs that they have. If they have need for any kind of software that perhaps will be required across multiple agencies, we will look to offer that within our PaaS, be it a LAMP stack or be it some kind of web service that the agencies need. We are not going by what is like a market share of a particular vendor within the industry. We are more focused within our agency demand. So if our agencies need it, we will build it and offer it to the agencies.
Great, we've got 3 up here.
Hello. Yep. Hi, Alan Proctor. I'm with Spring CM. I wanted to follow up on the question that Wyatt asked about costs. And I think it's interesting kind of moving from capital to operating costs. And that's clearly a concern because no agency is looking to increase costs at a time when your budget's going down. That said, you know, the different sets of costs out there. You've got operating costs for your IT infrastructure, which Wyatt was talking about. But I think for most agencies, you've got an even larger category of costs, which are people doing work. And people are part of what's going to get cut because for at least civilian agencies, a lot of the cost, most of the cost is in the people. I was struck actually when Jeff Zients, the Deputy Director for Management, introduced Vivek when he announced the 25-point plan. He started with a point, which is that government's got to increase the productivity of government processes. And that's what this stuff is about. And my question is, you know, what have you done within your organizations to actually document the program impact? Not just improve service, which is important, but cutting costs for programs of operating. Because I think at the end of the day, in this budget environment that we're looking forward to in the future, that's going to be crucial to be able to sell, you know, cloud as something that's really going to help people operate.
What, Sarah?
Sure. For every solution that we've implemented to date that had any cost associated with it, we did a cost benefits analysis. And that involved what savings we might, investigating, okay, how much are the program offices spending on doing something similar to this right now, by consolidating, by doing an enterprise level initiative, by using this solution, where are the cost savings going to be? We've also gotten we've gotten inventive. I'll go back to the gentleman's earlier question. As we were saving costs, I was nodding my head as Vishal was talking because we reduced our operating costs significantly, and that allowed us to target new areas for development that we'd never been able to go into before. And then to your comment about the people, where we're getting inventive is right now we've got a lot of our funding built into paying for services, paying for our labor through contracts, and some of those we're seeing maybe if we insource, so that's not reducing the number of government employees, but it costs less to bring some of these potentially the people we're paying a lot of money for and that are actually part of our ongoing operations and maintenance costs in to be federal employees.
Great, thank you. Next question.
Good morning, I'm John Paschuck with ESCGov. A question on the software licensing. You described USDA Connect as a scalable solution offered to all USDA agencies at a fraction of IBM's Lotus Live SaaS offering. Software licensing was identified by Kevin Plaxico earlier as a major issue. The problem, of course, is that while companies like RightNow or Salesforce are optimized, that's their revenue model. IBM, CA, BMC, et cetera, that flies in the face of their RevRec model. Additionally, when Sarah was talking about the clauses, things like termination for convenience, anti-deficiency, non-fiscal funding clauses, along with the right to turn usage down, really breaks that. But you solve it. So could you speak to that a little more? How did you do that at a price lower than IBM's SaaS offering? Did you have to do a massive buy up front, et cetera? If you could speak to that, I'd appreciate it.
So one of the reasons I mentioned to you, I mean, IBM's SaaS offering, it's just an example, don't want to pick on them, but that is an extremely efficient pricing that they have with the SaaS offering, which is geared towards small businesses who do not have the capacity to build in their own infrastructure, bring in their own things. But when you are an agency of 120,000 employees, you bring an enterprise license for, say, connections, and put it on your servers and run within your private cloud. There are definitely more better efficiencies that we can provide within our private cloud using the similar technologies than what IBM might have found as an optimal point for offering to smaller businesses that are maybe 10 people, 20 people businesses. So their offering could be something which is just, I mean, I was comparing it with the published price, right? So that could be a published price for a set of customers. They could be offering it at a different price points. But yes, to answer your question, did we have to buy the licenses? Absolutely. Did we have to stand up the infrastructure? Yes. But we have learned through the tools that are available with virtualization and others to how better to utilize the assets that we are buying. We are not running our assets at 8% and 7% utilization anymore. Through virtualization, we are getting that utilization up to 60, 65%. And that's helping us bringing the cost down. Will it be comparable to private industry 2 years from now? I can say with confidence. But right now where we stand, as compared to what we had before, it is extremely price competitive.
Okay, just to follow up, so that your model is you did use capital funds.
Yep.
You did make it an ELA, and then you translated that yourselves.
Absolutely.
With respect to IBM's business model.
Absolutely.
Capital funds.
Yep.
And now you translate that into an internal SaaS model.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Next question.
Okay, very quickly, you both said something that nobody else has said in all the cloud conferences I've been in the last 6 weeks. I almost fell off my chair when you said improved transparency, because that's been the one thing everybody's saying against security. So I think that needs played up on the positive, because all we're hearing is the negative when we try to get momentum in these agencies. Sarah, you brought up accessibility, and I know a lot of the security and privacy requirements that the cloud are going to care about are actually coming out of the health IT piece because of the EMR devices. And I would expect FEMA has devices. So two questions. Vishal, are you driving the brilliance that you've obviously brought out of your own group into the NIST definitions of RefArch and taxonomy and use case, because that sure could be leveraged, and I don't remember seeing USDA in the calls I've been on.
Is no an acceptable answer?
Okay.
Not yet.
Let me
Not
get
yet.
these questions out, and then I'll let you answer so that I don't get accused of hogging this. And then on Sarah, are you getting help from the providers on the accessibility point? Because I just played through EC2 key management, process of trying to even get out on their service, and that's a nightmare from a cut and paste and key management arena. And I cannot even imagine that being something easy to roll over from an accessibility standpoint. So it's kind of a question for both of you guys.
Do you want to tap? Okay. We have encountered issues with 508 accessibility, and we've identified solutions that we've really liked and found that for whatever reason, that was going to be something that prevented us from implementing and launching the solution. But 99% of the time, the vendor has recognized that it behooves, so these are the ones where it's a software as a service, it behooves them to implement things that make their solution more 508 accessible, because then it's going to be marketable to all of the federal government. The easy fixes, everyone has done them. We've got, and that's I showed the core group, but we have a 508 coordination office, and they review every product before we go to launch with it, and they identify what issues there are, and most of them are very easy fixes. It's like they're missing a tag on something. So all the vendors I've worked with have been very willing to make those minor fixes, and in some cases we've had some who again recognize the benefit of making their products more 508 accessible, and they did so.
And Section 54 for the telco side?
I'm not familiar with that.
Same requirement, just on the wireless device side.
We got
And,
about 15 seconds.
Share with others.
So one thing I wanted to clarify was that the improved transparency piece that I just mentioned was primarily an internal thing around USDA cost transparency. So I didn't mean in terms of security transparency or the offering transparency per se. But yes, so to answer Charlie, not yet. We haven't contributed much, or we will seek to engage with you.
Down to these cloud computing accelerators, so anything we can
We'll do that.
There was still a bunch of hands raised. I think the folks will be around afterwards to still answer questions. So how about a round of applause?